This is the Lord's Day lesson for October the 26th, 2025, here on Following Him, the Disciple Life. There were times when Jesus terrified people. Look at Luke 24, verse 36, where it reads, "Now as they said these things, Jesus himself stood in the midst of them and said to them, 'Peace to you.' But they were terrified and frightened and supposed they had seen a spirit. And he said to them, 'Why are you troubled? And why do doubts arise in your hearts? Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me and see, for a spirit does not have flesh and bones, as you see I have.'" Now, we kind of touched on this with the morning message this morning, but there were times where circumstances made the apostles just terrified of Jesus. You know, how he's appearing, what they're seeing. They're not quite understanding the implications of it all. Now, at this point, the disciples that encountered Jesus on the road to Emmaus, they had come to report to the remaining apostles what they had seen. And Simon Peter had already had seen Jesus as well. Paul talks about this in 1 Corinthians 15, where he talks about Jesus appearing to Cephas before he appears to the rest of the apostles. And when they, a similar thing happened. When they saw Jesus walking on the water, this is what we dealt with this morning, John 6, they were scared. They see something walking on the water. Matthew and Mark both add that they thought that he was a phantasma, that's the Greek word, an apparition or a ghost is what it means. And while using a different word here, Luke uses a word for spirit, but it's the same type of idea. A ghost is a type of spirit. It's the spirit of the dead returned. And so that's what they're thinking. They're thinking that, they've seen a ghost. Once again, it's so funny. There are two occasions where they thought Jesus was a ghost. Now, the first one, it makes a little bit more sense because, with the seeing him at night, you see a figure walking to you on the water at night, probably going to freak you out. But here, he's fulfilling what they should understand by now was going to happen. But still, just the circumstances, and to be fair, he does just, kind of suddenly appear here. So, that would make it understandable. Now, there's a difference between understandable and excusable. And he does, question them. Why are you troubled? Why do doubts arise in your hearts? There are times Jesus is terrifying. There are times where things about the Christ, to really take it in, to really understand what it means to carry your cross and follow him and be like him, it can be terrifying. But remember what it is he said when he appeared. Now, yes, he goes on, he demonstrates, I'm not a spirit, look, real, I'm physical. In the verses following our reading, it has him eating some broiled fish and some honeycomb. But the words that he introduces himself in this circumstance with, that he greets them with, peace to you. When you think about it, him appearing there, this was ultimately peace to them. Now, it took a second before they realized it. And he's probably using this is, Luke is writing this in Greek, but it's at least possible that Jesus used the word shalom here, maybe even shalom, perfect peace. That would seem reasonable, and that Luke is using a dynamic equivalent in this place, because when you say shalom to somebody, that's basically saying peace to you. But that is what he came to bring. Now, sometimes it takes a second before we realize it, and it takes a second for us to get past our fright. But yes, you're going to be scared sometimes. It's okay. I mean, it's not okay to stay there. But just because you're initially scared, just because following the Christ, Jesus himself and what it means for our lives, because it can be frightening, and we realize the life choices we have to make, life changes we have to make, peace to you. He really did arise. Making up words here. He really did arise. He really is the Son of God. So yes, he's frightening sometimes. Even now, when we consider what he means for our lives, it can be scary. but peace to you. Have a good rest of the day, and shalom.